Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Papa D's at the train in Fordsburg Square in Johannesburg, South Africa. Today we'll be preparing for you fillet medallions with baked potato wedges and some sauteed onions and mushrooms. Your ingredients here are quite low because I want you to get the taste of the fillet steak, and of course it's not overbearing. The spices are not too much, so basically my main spices are just salt and pepper. The other thing is I'll be using some of the Papa's chicken breading on the potatoes. When we go ahead you'll see how that's done. So I'm actually using a baked potato. You could use boiled potato as well, and the most important thing is that this is the finest cut of meat you can get. It is so tender, it cooks so quickly, it's just amazing. So before we start with that, I just want to get out one of the baked potatoes which I've already prepared from the oven and show you what we're going to do with that. My baked potato ready to be used. Now what I'm going to do here is with very little oil, I'm just going to give this a slight sauteing in the pan. So before we get any further, let me get my fire going. Add some olive oil. Now also you'll notice I'll be cooking this entire meal all together. So in fact some of the flavors from the meat, from the vegetables will all infuse in the entire meal. Keeping it at low heat, very little oil of course, especially for the steak, you don't need too much oil. I'm going to cut 2 slices, that's your whole fillet, and I'm going to cut out 2 slices about that thick to give me the medallions. Alright, so that'll be the one. If you want it very well done, then obviously you should cut this slightly thinner. But I think you don't want to go too thin as well, because then you lose all the moisture in the meat. Now once that's done, this meat is so tender, you actually don't need a mallet. I'm just going to hit it down a bit, flatten it. There we have it. So that's almost ready to go. I'm going to use some salt on here. And fine white pepper. You could use black pepper if you want. I'm just going to rub it in a bit, because I want that flavor of the salt and the pepper to come through. Your salt as well is a very important ingredient. So make sure you have enough salt in the mixture as well. I'm going to turn it over. Do the same here. Rub on a bit of salt. And pepper. Fine, my meat is now ready to go into the pan. Very little bit of olive oil there. Bismillah. So I don't need too much oil. I'm actually just placing it in the oil and moving it away. I'm now going to prepare my mushrooms. Well, actually first the onions. I'm going to cut them into half moons so they're easier to cook. As thin as possible, because that will obviously make it cook much faster. And that can go in the meantime. Now in here, for the pungency, I've also used a bit of my prepared jalapeno chilies, the pickled ones. That obviously, that they are not too strong, but they have that little bit of sourness, which I would like to have in the meal. And I'll also be using a bit of the jalapeno sauce in here with the mushrooms and the onions. While that's happening, I'm going to prepare my mushrooms. Remember, mushrooms have such a high water content that if you start cooking them too early, they'll shrink away and you won't even see them in your meal. So don't be in a hurry to put your mushrooms in. Thinly sliced. There we are. Now in here as well, I'm not using much of a seasoning because my sauce is going to come in. But in the meantime, what I am doing is just adding a little bit of salt and pepper in my mushroom and onion mixture. I'm going to turn the steak around. I'm going to flip it over. You can see the juices are coming. I'm going to wait a little bit longer so that I get the juices coming through. Then I know the bottom is nicely sealed, and then obviously I can flip them over. In the meantime, I'm going to get my oven ready on the griller. I will also be using this oven pan to actually melt the cheese on the finished product. I'm moving my grid as high as possible because all I need here really is to melt the cheese. While I flip the meat over, you see how beautifully it's sealed. It's got a nice caramel crust on the top. I'm cooking it in the juices from the onion. Now, the important thing is I like my meat medium to well done. If you like it well done, then actually you should use a slightly thinner piece of steak. But I just feel that you lose all the moisture inside. So I prefer it in medium, and my meat is almost ready. I'm going to put my mushrooms in at the very end, but in the meantime, I'm going to prepare my potato. Baked potato here. Also going to cut them into rings, about an inch thick. There we are. That's the baked potato ready to use.
Pick it up. Okay. When you're ready, Dina, take it away.
So here we are. My baked potatoes are now ready, dusted in the flour. And the next thing I need to do with this is to place it into my egg wash. So I've got some ready prepared egg wash. It's just basically egg with a little bit of milk. And now I'm going to drop these into here. Soak them nicely. And that's the other one there. Just be sure that the egg has coated the potato entirely. I'm now going to place this into my special breading. And again, I'm just going to continue frying it alongside the rest of my ingredients. That's almost done. My steak is done the way I want it, medium. All the juices have burnt off already. My onions are ready. So I just need to get to fry my potatoes a little more. But in the meantime, I'm dropping in my mushrooms. My steaks are done. I'm going to now remove them and place them into the pan, into my oven pan, because I don't want to overdo them. So I'm putting them alongside each other, not necessarily together, because I want to lift them and serve them individually. And while that's happening, I'm just giving my mushrooms a bit of a cookout. And now I'm going to add a little bit more oil for my baked potatoes. If you have a deep fryer, it's a good idea to drop them in and they would fry beautifully. That's done now. So all I'm going to do now to my mushrooms is to add some of the jalapeno sauce to make it a bit saucy. My jalapeno and mushroom sauce is ready. I'm just going to check. Flavoring is perfect. Aromas are amazing. I just now need to get my potatoes done. You need not worry because your potatoes are already cooked. But as I've mentioned, if you have a deep fryer, you can drop them into a deep fryer. It'll give you a beautiful finish. As soon as my potatoes are ready, I'm going to prepare for the oven. My potatoes are now done. I'm going to place them into the pan. Place my fillet steak on top of it. So I'm going to spoon my mixture on over here. Now, in order to bring a little bit of pungency to this, obviously if you're a chili person, you could actually saute your chilies with the mixture, but instead I've decided to use the Papa's pickled jalapenos, which I find give it a nice sour taste as well. There we go. That's done. And now the final ingredients. I'm going to put my mozzarella cheese on first. There we have it. And on the top, I'm going to add some cheddar cheese again. And there we are. I'm now ready to pop this into the oven under the grill, just to allow the cheese to melt nicely over the whole meal. I don't want to overdo it with the cheese, so I'm actually keeping my oven open so that I can actually see when the cheese is melted to the right consistency. And there we are. I'm quite pleased. My cheese has melted over nicely. Just getting a few little golden spots on the top. And now we'll be ready to serve this meal. So what you've got here today is fillet steak with mushrooms and onions and jalapeno chilies, and topped with mozzarella and cheddar cheese. So here we have today's meal. It's fillet steak medallions on baked potato with mushroom and chilies and onions in a jalapeno sauce, topped with mozzarella cheese and cheddar cheese. From us for today, that'll be all, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.